Hello guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, welcome. My name is Emily Ruth. I make faith and lifestyle videos. I am so happy that you're here today. If you clicked on this video, I believe that you clicked on it for a reason. Today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about something that's very near and dear to my heart, and it's the number 22. Now, before I say anything, I just want to mention that I understand that there's kind of a bit of controversy in the Christian world in regards to like angel numbers and seeing repetitive numbers. If you have heard of angel numbers and you have like a certain idea about it or whatever, I just want you to take this with an open mind. I'm just going to say from the bat, no, I don't believe in angel numbers, but I do believe that God uses numbers. And this is my story of how he has used the number 22 and 222 in my own personal life and in my faith journey. Before we get started, I just want to say, make sure that you hit the subscribe button if you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up if you like it, and also turn on the notification bell so you never miss another upload. Let's get into this. So my story with the number 22 is a long one. I'm going to try to summarize it to the best of my ability, but basically what happened was when I was 16 years old, and if you've heard my testimony before, I have mentioned this before. If you've watched either of my testimony videos, I've mentioned this before, but not quite in depth. If you want to watch my testimony videos after this one, I will leave them in the description box down below. Also, I want to mention, I'm always leaving like messages and notes for you guys and links in the description box, so make sure you check those out. I just wanted to say that. So anyway, when I was 16, I was friends with this group of girls in high school. Towards the last like 6 months of our friendship, I started seeing the number 22 a lot. It would just come up, like, I don't know, it would come up on the time, it would come up on a license plate, it would come up. It's hard to think of examples because there's so many things that hold numbers, right? But it would just come up in a lot of places. I kept seeing it, and my friends would make fun of me. They said I was like Jim Carrey in that movie 23. If you've seen it, if you haven't, it's not good. Don't watch it. But if you have, wow, I can't talk. He develops this obsession with the number, and it's like this weird conspiracy thing. I actually don't remember much about that movie, but they made fun of me for it, you know? But I knew that it was deeper than me just noticing it. Something in me just knew that it was deeper than that. When I stopped being friends with those girls, it was very dramatic the way that it happened, and I'm not going to go into that right now. I do share that in my testimony again, but anyway, you know, I stopped being friends with these girls. I was really sad. I was really broken. It was the first time in my life that I really begged Jesus to save me because I was so depressed. Basically, they all found out that I was lying about a lot of things and didn't want to be my friend anymore, rightfully so. And it really broke me. It really hurt me. Through it all, you know, that was God setting me apart, but I didn't realize that until much later. But I started seeing 22 even more after that. And I remember I was hanging out with this one girl that I was like newly becoming friends with, that I like was acquaintances with in school. We went to like this karaoke night, and there was like a bunch of things that happened that night with like the number 22. The time was 22 something when I performed this song. There was like 22 letters in like this sentence of like food I was ordering, like just a lot of like really random things like that, and it made me want to search it. So my friend searched on her phone what the meaning of the number 22 was, and if you look up numbers now, a lot of the times you will find links to angel numbers, but this was like before angel numbers were a really popular concept, at least on the internet. If anything, I just remember seeing like this link for master number 22, and I clicked on it. The meaning that that website had for that number said that the number 22 represents the end of wrongdoing and the start of a new path. And throughout the years, I kept seeing the number 22 in times of hurt, in times of pain, in times of confusion. Maybe if something really good was happening, I would see it. And it wasn't like I was just noticing it. It would literally felt like something in me was like, look here. And then I would see the number 22. And over time, the number developed a new meaning. I remember it was my 22nd birthday. I was with this really toxic guy. just trying to make it work. And it was my 22nd birthday. We were in Mexico. This was one of the nights where our relationship was working. We were just talking about Jesus, which was crazy because he wasn't even a believer. And God revealed like part of my purpose to me that night. And there was this moment where it was really dark and we were sitting by the seashore. This guy was leading me out to the water and I got scared because I couldn't see, and I couldn't see if the tide was coming in, and I didn't know how the ocean like worked at the time, which sounds really funny. And I didn't know like how quickly the tide could come in, if there was going to be like a big wave that like swept us away or whatever, because it was super dark. So he led me out to the water and I looked up and it was like the most beautiful view of the sky. And I just could see how the stars, how like creation, how the mountains, like everything, the waves, they were all just like everything in all creation was like glorifying him. And in that moment, he spoke to me, keep calm and trust me. And on that trip, I had this little red book that I carried with me, and it was called Keep Calm and Trust God. And it had like all these different passages in it, like if you're dealing with anxiety, if you're dealing with depression, if you're dealing with fear, like whatever, meditate on these verses. And then it would have like little devotionals in it. And so the theme for that whole trip for my 22nd birthday was keep calm and trust God. And from then on, 22 became a beacon of hope. And every time I would see it, it would be like something in me was saying, have faith, just trust and have faith. I knew of the Lord at that time. I had just started going to church around the age of 22 again, because I used to go when I was younger. I stopped going for many years. And then when I was about the age of 22, I started going to church again. But I wasn't like diligently following the Lord. I wasn't reading the Bible. You know, I knew little to nothing about the Bible actually. And being in that toxic and abusive relationship at that time. You know, this guy was atheist and he was constantly fighting me about God, mocking me for my beliefs, mocking me a lot actually, because I didn't have a good knowledge of the word, which is why I, years later, was like, I'm gonna read the whole Bible. I'm almost done now, which is so cool, but that's not what we're talking about today. So, you know, he constantly mocked me about God and my faith. And the reason that I mentioned that is because it pushed me to follow Jesus more. It pushed me to pray more. It pushed me to pursue God more. And when that relationship blew up, I just dove head first into the Lord. You know, throughout all of this, I kept seeing the number 22. And because I wasn't reading the word at the time, it was like the Lord used this number 22 and 222. He used it. So like the Bible says, your word is a light to my feet and a lamp unto my path. I think I have that verse right. And so like before I was reading the word, this is how he lit my path, if that makes sense. You know, when I got out of that toxic relationship, I did end up getting into another toxic relationship that was very similar. That's a different story. But, you know, throughout all of that, God still kept showing me the number 22. Once I started reading the word more diligently, I will say I started to see the number 22 less, unless it's in like very specific moments. For example, when my husband came to the States, he came to the States on a K1 visa. And when you get a K1 visa, you have to get married within 90 days. So within 90 days of him coming to the States, we had to plan a whole wedding. He came to the States in November. So like around the end of the 90 days was February 22nd, which is the second month, 22nd day. And this was 2020 that we got married. At the time, I was like, this is kind of cliche for me to do, but at the same time, like it just feels right. So when my husband and I had our 2-year anniversary, it was on 2/22/2022. It was pretty ridiculous, and I didn't plan it that way at all, but God works in mysterious ways. And something I learned today actually is that there's this website called BibleStudy.org, and it talks about all these different numbers that God uses, not just that God uses them, but like what they signify in the Bible. And I was reading upon the number 22, and part of its meaning was like the unity of marriage, which I thought was really interesting. And then, you know, so that was our 2-year anniversary was 2022. And then the rest of 2022 was like so pivotal for me. It was really a year that I felt like I was thrown into the fire and God rescued me, but he kept having to remind me, like, have faith. Like the whole theme was like, you need to trust me and have faith, which is what, you know, 22 has been throughout all these years for me. The Lord also showed me that 22 was a number of completion. For example, the book of Revelation, the last book in the Bible, has 22 chapters. 22 is also related to the end times. I'm pretty sure that BibleStudy.org talks about that as well. So that's my story, you know, briefly, of how God has used the number 22 in my life. The reason that I felt led to make this is because there's so much misinformation or people condemning when people see repetitive numbers and call them angel numbers, and I get that. I'm going to get into that in a second. But let's just forget about that for a moment and just talk about, like, how do I know that God uses numbers? How do we know that God uses numbers? For one, every Bible verse is numbered. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but sometimes I'll look at the time, or I'll hear a number in my head, or I'll see a number somewhere, maybe in a dream, and then God will reference like a certain Bible verse, right? Like that's how we reference Bible verses, is through numbers. The Bible also says that the very hairs in your head are all numbered. The thoughts that God has for us outnumber the grains of sand. There's also a lot of significance with the number 7 being a number of completion in the Bible. Also a lot of significance with the number 33. Again, if you go to biblestudy.org, you will see these things. It's not satanic to keep seeing numbers. I've been wanting to film this video for a while, but I got really stirred up about this in my spirit because like yesterday or the day before, I saw this woman preacher that was saying, oh, if you're seeing these numbers, these angel numbers, then that's from the devil. And it's like, I just want to say, be careful not to demonize someone who is seeing repetitive numbers, because when I started seeing these numbers, I was not following the Lord, but he used these numbers to be a guiding light for me. For example, my sister has seen the number 143 a lot. Back in the day when you would use pagers, the number 143 meant I love you. And, you know, for a long time, she thought that it was like her deceased friend that was sending her that number, that was showing it to her as a sign from the beyond that he was okay and he was with her. But it wasn't about him. It was about the Lord. It's the Lord that was showing her that number. And it was the Lord that was showing me the number 22. The term angel numbers is simply just an incorrect term, but that doesn't mean that God doesn't use numbers. We need to stop deeming repetitive numbers as demonic. That's like putting God in a box, and God does not fit inside of a box. Like, he can use many, many things to speak to us. He's used psychedelics, you know, back in the day to speak to me. I don't do those anymore, but when I was doing them, he absolutely used those to speak so many truths to me. I am not telling you to do psychedelics. I'm just saying that, you know, God he's kind of wild in the best way. And like, to say that he can only speak to us through certain things or certain pastors is just not true. You know, I've had instances where God has spoken to me through unbelievers, people who weren't even following the Lord, because the Lord uses us what he pleases and who he pleases. And if you're seeing repetitive numbers, I just pray that you do not label them as angel numbers, but you give credit to the one who deserves it. God is perhaps trying to tell you or someone else something through these numbers. And I know that because he did it for me, because through following the number 22, he led me to where I am now, which is like in such a deep, intimate relationship with him. And it's not like it has to be numbers that he uses, but it is one way. Absolutely. The issue is not the numbers itself, but calling it angel numbers. Everything in all of creation does not belong to the angels. It belongs to the Lord. It belongs to Jesus. So if you know someone who has been seeing these repetitive numbers and they're calling them angel numbers, do not demonize them, but lead them to the Lord. I truly believe that God is trying to wake up this generation, all people. And I think that that's why people call them angel numbers, because it's a real thing. It's a real thing to be seeing these repetitive numbers. But, you know, the devil cannot create. He can only distort. He can only be a copycat. So of course he's going to try to take credit for something that God actually ordained. Like I said, just saying again, don't demonize someone for seeing them. Just give them hope that it is probably the Lord that is showing them those things. That's it for today's video. I hope that this was interesting for you. I hope that you got something out of it. If you stayed till the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate you and I appreciate your support. A lot of my viewers don't end up actually watching like my full videos, which is kind of disheartening for me, but honestly, I make videos for the Lord. I don't make them at the end of the day, it's all for the Lord. I just pray that is reflected in my videos. I pray that you guys have a great and a blessed day. Leave me a comment down below if you've had an experience like this, if you have any questions about my experience, or if you just need a prayer or anything. Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to pray for you. And on that note, I hope you guys have a blessed day. I love you. God loves you. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.